After all these years working at Ilion in this kind of like pre-production and process of enjoyment and testing and friendships and all that, and well, after a couple of years, I consider myself that was the time to move, and that's how I end up jumping into Canada, Vancouver, and working in Sony Imageworks. This set up a totally new stage of my life. Everything that is happening till here, more or less, is being, let's say, in the line of being a very crazy animator, passionate, thinking that I was doing the work of my life, very obsessive about animation, workaholic, working lots of hours, not caring about anything else but that, but with a lot of ambition, with a big ego, big ego. Wanted to be a big animator. But when I jump into Sony Pictures, things started to change a lot. Well, firstly, from the professional perspective and the industry perspective, I have to say that I didn't know too much about Vancouver. I didn't know too much about Sony Pictures, even less about Hotel Team. And I wasn't actually super excited. I liked the idea of jumping in new studio, quality. It was the moment when I knew that that the OTLT was directed by Gandy Director, when I really got hyped. And that took me like a couple of months, you know, before I actually ended up being there. Like all my contract, everything was already signed up, and I was getting ready to move, but I didn't know anything about Gandy. So, okay, I got the job. I started doing my job here. And I was very lucky to start to get good shots. Like this one was the very first one that I got. And very fast, Gandy Director and we started working like in a very in sync, right? Like he liked my style, I like his perspective of the way he gives feedback and the way he directs is very visual. Like everything that all his vision, he's basically applying and telling to you through drawing, because originally he comes from 2D animation, right? And he's a very expressive, highly communicative guy, of course, because he's a director and with a lot of experience, but mainly because he's 2D background, right? So you could very easily understand whatever he wants just by a couple of drawings. So from all the experience that I had before, from my taste and how I was starting to get in sync a little bit more with the kind of style that I was liking. If you look at this test here, you can see how I was already very into the, you know, pushing things, sharp timing, not so much into not even here in my very first stuff. Like I was already pushing stuff, doing like long arcs, deforming a lot. In this show, everything came up, blend up together, or let's say got in sync together. And I have to say that part of that was thanks to Gandy, and of course the team, the supervisor back then, and my lead, who basically trusted me a lot, and they gave me total freedom many times. I barely got notes. I just was doing shot after shot, doing a kind of a style that I was discovering within myself, because I was having a great time. I was enjoying it. But all this happened at the same time. I was, personally speaking, from my personal perspective, I was crashing. I jumped into burnout. I jumped into stress, and all that started to be reflected in my personal life, with my family, with my partner back then, in my body. I started to have strong issues like back pain, neck pain, strong headaches. 2012 and OTLT1 was the moment where I lost the passion, where I basically started to question myself as an animator, Everything that I built in all those first few years, 6 years, came down with the realization that all my life was my work, and everything that I was doing was for my work, and everything that I was doing was to achieve fame, to achieve, just for ego, just for ambition. And I got into personal issues very strong, right? So luckily for me, I end up after, I believe it was right after 2012, Kike Oliva, who actually was supervisor of this, when I was in Spain lots of years ago, he was already working for Pixar in Vancouver as well. And I talked to him, and he was the one who introduced me to meditation. Because I talked to him about when I'm starting to feel weird, having issues, I want to start to do meditation because I've heard and I read that can help with the stress and all that. And I knew back then he was very into meditation. He already was studying some different schools of personal growth. So he introduced me to that. I started to meditate, and actually I started to meditate, I think at the end of Hotel T1, going into the bathroom. I was meditating in the bathroom. Poor guys, they were just, peeing outside, and I was inside, with the locked door trying to meditate, learning to meditate, which is like you're all over, your mind is all over, you're paying attention to the pee of the guy, you're thinking of your shot, the pain in my neck, the pain in my bum because I'm in the bathroom. So, very bizarre story. Anyways, and after that I started also to go to therapy, to go into a therapist, with the idea with trying to understand myself a little more, why I was going through all of that, and everything that came with therapy was just basically my life turned upside down. What basically happened is that I realized that I no longer wanted to go and jump into Pixar because I pushed myself too much in order to work into a place where they do a kind of a style that I didn't like at all. I don't like, I'm sorry, Pixar, you do wonderful movies. There are amazing animation, quality is great. But I realized that working in that style, the actual doing, sitting myself and doing that kind of a style is something that I don't like, I don't enjoy at all, I don't have fun. I don't find pleasure. And I started to realize that all I wanted to do is something that gives me, that makes me feel joy, that makes me feel that I'm doing something for myself. And that also, thanks to this crisis, thanks to therapy, thanks to meditation, thanks to some schools of spirituality that I started to study, and other schools of personal growth, I started to literally not give a shit about what other thinks about my work. And I started to work from a more personal perspective of satisfying myself. Of course, finding the balance with others, but I think that in this time, I was lucky enough to simply just think about myself and just do all the shit that I wanted to do with the style that I wanted to do. And it was quite welcome. So again, I started to confirm that it's very important to follow my personal crave, my personal creative crave, right? Very interesting. Right after doing Hotel Team, I jumped into doing Smurfs, which is the closest thing to VFX that I've ever done. Totally different workflow. If you've done any kind of VFX, you may know that VFX way of working things is by doing and redoing and redoing and redoing lots of things, getting like a lot of, in my perspective, nonsense notes that is basically applying a very subjective vision that, at least in my experience, I couldn't understand from the director, and I didn't like it at all. I did my best to, let's say to accommodate and to put my craft and put my vision to satisfy the vision of others, and that was it. That was the end of, okay, I'm not doing this anymore in my life. I'm not going to put the vision, the creative satisfaction of others on top of mine. So this was the last one, let's say, that that I didn't choose. After this, I started to choose where I wanted to work. I think at this time, more or less, I started to feel more comfortable with animation after doing OTLT 1. I think in OTLT 1 was when I could do anything I wanted to do. I was simply highly familiar with the animation process of animation making. No, I wasn't afraid. I was just, all the ideas that I had, I was able to do it. I was doing it. People were liking it. So let's say that S'mores for me was the confirmation of how I don't want to do the things. So it was a good lesson for me to confirm that I had to stay honest with myself and work in those places where I could find a good balance of satisfying myself and satisfying others and helping others to reach their vision. This definitely wasn't the show where I had a balance. I was giving more than receiving. Not that other animators of other teams were having the same experience. Some other may like it, but for me, this was what happened. And then after that, I got lucky to get tiny little collaborations in different shows, the short films. Then after come the Popeye. But well, let's say that after doing OTLT gave me the nomination to the VES, and that helped me a little bit to get more known in the industry and to get known in the studio. Again, thanks to keep learning about myself, thanks to keep doing self-therapy and therapy, personal growth and all that, I started to realize about how important was the rest of the aspects of the life beyond animation. I was starting to enjoy more my partnerships. I was starting to enjoy more my friendships, the life outside animation. I was starting to enjoy more tiny little things that somehow this would feed animation. Animation for me, I think 2013, it was just a fun thing to do. It was giving me money, and it was actually giving me money in order to keep doing therapy, because I did intense therapy for almost 3 years. So let's say that I kept animating because I needed the money. And so I didn't like the experience. After this, I think I was starting to not really enjoy to go into, do several hours, doing OT, doing weekends, going into crunch. I was starting to be very aware of how the dynamic or the dynamism of the industry of working lots of hours, the possibility of the stress in every show wasn't really helping in my health situation. So I believe it was around this time, while working on Popeye, where I did two things. One was that I started to animate for the sake of my happiness and for the sake of my joy and have fun. So everything I did was towards that direction, just thinking about myself and having a good time, because let's say the experience of going into a studio wasn't fun at all, and it was painful. And artists or directors like Gandy helped me a lot, because still they give me lots of freedom and a good time. I had a lot of fun talking to them and learning from them, working with them, exchanging ideas. It was great. The other thing I do, and I have to be very thankful, it was to talk to the team of the artist management at Sony back then, and I was very honest, and I told them the truth of what I was going through. I was going through a stressful part of my life. I was having physical pain. I was physically in pain, emotionally in pain, mentally in pain. It was a mess. Oops. Um, and so little by little, they allow me to build up a lifestyle or a work style where I wasn't doing no OT, I wasn't working on weekends, and I wasn't working on Fridays. Or another way of saying, I was just working 4 hours, 4 days a week, only 8 hours a day. Because honestly, and that was the reality. That was the only way that I could do this job. And I had a lot of support from a lot of people, a lot of artists, and a lot of fellows that allowed me to keep doing on that. As I just keep doing the work the best as I could do in order to have fun, in order to enjoy it. And little by little, I went more in, and I started to really reach more and understand more about creativity, how the creative energy works, how the beauty works, how creating beauty, how creating something that I myself consider beautiful, how important is to create something that is entertaining, that I have myself while doing it. I started to understand all that and the power of all that. I started to realize that by myself having fun, by myself taking care of myself, by myself being entertained, like having a big laughter. I had big laughters in this time in my desk, working in some shots. Like I remember working in the mommy shot, in this shot. I had big laughters in my desk. What the? I just trying shit. And it was amazing to connect how that experience of animating, so fun, so relaxed, so more thinking about my life, thinking about what's happening outside the studio, considering the good times, the good tiny things of life, the laughter, the joy that all this was bringing to what it was creating in the people who was looking at my job. I could see that people were liking more than ever my job. I was getting like lots of compliments from everybody, and I could see that they were enjoying my job. Directors, producers, people from the internet, they were enjoying it, and that was like, and it's still today. It's amazing how I could build a creative job that comes out of a spot that is not stressful, it's not painful. It's basically taking care of myself and have fun. Of course, my ego started to go down, my ambition to, that was part of the problem. You started to realize how my big ego, my big ambition was the one pushing. You have to be good. You have to be amazing. Was the one who was making me to do long hours. That was the one who somehow pushed me to let others to take advantage of my passion, right? So my drive to animate and my drive to keep doing this work started to shift little by little from my ego and from my ambition, from wanting to work for a big studio like Pixar, to something that simply make me feel good with myself, with my own body, with that give me life, that makes me enjoy the rest of things of life. It all started to shift into that direction. I'm still going in that direction, and right now everything I'm trying to do comes out of that spot. But it was back then in 2014, more or less, when everything was starting to go over there. 2014 was very interesting because OTLT2, Adam Sandler was producing this movie, and he had a lot of power. And so I could see how lots of people were getting frustrated to make Adam Sandler happy. We were trying to push for a kind of animation that was more in the direction of what OTLT3 now is. I can see it's Gandy 100%. But Gandy and the creative team, or the animators back then in 2014 in OTLT2, they couldn't go that far yet, because that was that Adam Sandler put in his own vision. Of course, he was producing, so what can you do? And I could see the frustration. Now, after myself being a little bit more aware of trying to being healthy with myself, trying to satisfy more my own creative impulse, my own creative ideas and all that, I could see how lots of other people were jumping into that kind of frustration, trying to satisfy the creativity of others when it's not shared, when it's not good blended. So I did my best to still do my best to be myself and to do my own ideas. Though many of my ideas into OTLT2, my ideas and Gandy too, and we were having lots of conversation about okay, how can we make this short work in a way that we like, but also the producers like. So it was very interesting to having that kind of okay, try to push this a little bit and see if they like it or not. Oh, that thing, that idea is a little too much. Bring it down. It was playful. At that time, I'm happy that I already was a little bit more down to earth with a little bit more of patience. So I did a couple more of things after OTLT2. I worked on Storks too. And so as you can see, from 2015 to 2018, that's where everything that is around Tyreq and Animal Warriors is happening. I had 3 years where basically everything that I've realized and I started to come into, I was starting to apply that, like, okay, paying attention to myself, paying attention to my own creativity, trying to stay healthy, try to enjoy life beyond the studio. I was trying to apply that and try to work in studios with different teams that were helping me to do that. One of the first few things that, or one of the first main things that I've learned after working at Sony that I wanted to put into action was giving importance to the people and the teams that I work on, because that's the origin of everything. The team that you're working with is the origin the source. The team is the source to all the creative outcome that the studio is going to be working on, all the professional outcomes, the hours, the salary, the everyday talking. Even those are very important in order to create a healthy and a nice work environment. So for 3 years, I worked in several teams. I actually went back to Spain to work in VR and explore with the different ways of storytelling, where I explore basically team working, different ways of doing work. To me, it was a big revelation to not work OT, to not work crunch time. I end up realizing that you can still do a very good job, creative job, that creates a lot of impact without the need of being stressed, without the need of suffering through the process. Because I've seen, and I keep seeing that stress is a big thing in the industry. Lots of people are going through lots of personal issues because of the stress and everything that comes after the stress, and anxiety, depression, Lots of people has quit this work in animation. So I started to explore working with different teams, different ways of work, different platforms. I end up collaborating with Stellar Creative Lab, which is a new studio in Vancouver, where they're a little bit aligned in that, trying to create like good relationships with people, trying to stay healthy. Meanwhile, you work with as much as you can with high quality products. I end up working on Cinecide and Sausage Party, which many story has been told. You probably heard of that. and that helped me to realize about what not to do, and in terms of work relationships. And little by little, I started to come into the idea of teaching and working in animation 100% foreign to myself. So this is how the first thing I did was developing Tyreq, as with the vision of at the end building anime warriors. But the first thing was building Tyreq, which is basically a character for animation that is designed by me, that is built with my vision about how some controls could go, and also you know, it was my very first serious approach to being an entrepreneur. I think that's the word, entrepreneur, and hiring people and hiring a team and basically doing everything for myself and from myself, right? Which for me is like a new step of creativity. This just becomes something else but just animating. It's just I'm not just animating in my style and in the way that I want to animate. I'm animating a character that I've created myself, and that's, if you've never done it, I recommend it to you. It's a new experience. I had a great time doing this test and starting to promote Tyreq in order to create something where animators could have a good time, you know, creating something that is more in the line of freestyle animation. People will say, how do you do cartoon animation? It's like, I don't know. I really don't know how I do cartoon animation. I don't see myself as a cartoonist. I'm an animator, and I do animation the way I want to do it. That's why I call it freestyle animation. And this for me is freestyle animation because it's freestyle. I'm free, and it's my style. I don't do it under the vision of anybody else. I don't do it trying to match any show, any studio vision. It's my style. It is what it comes from my heart when I do animate. So that's why I say this is more something that is freestyle, and that's why I created this rig in order to help others to be worryless of how some controls works, and be worryless about basically breaking it. I always say the same: do whatever you want to do. Fuck yeah. Dude, explore the animation in your own terms and go for it. If you want to break it and do like a big deformation, you can do it. And then little by little, Anima Warriors started as a platform to really put out there everything that I've learned. Not just in my first few years as an animator with all these tips that I say, become the character, the importance of posing, the importance of beauty, but also everything that I've learned after working in Sony, after my crash, when I started to do therapy, jump into spiritual work and meditation. That's something that I try to do with everybody that comes into Anima Warriors. It's just be yourself animating. It's just the warrior thing of anima is because it's the things. Become a warrior, being yourself. Try to create in your own way. Try to animate in your own way, in a way that is healthy, that gives you joy, that allows you to explore life in a beautiful way, and to be benefited of stopping by and looking around and enjoy the beauty of life, because that is going to feed your work, no matter what's the creative job that you do, greatly. So as you can see, everything has been, I didn't plan anything. I've been lucky enough to have great mentors that helped me to realize very early in my years about the importance of becoming the character, of trying to feel the character. That's what Bolembo Chiba told me. told me when I was doing Alma here, right? To feel the character. This is something that to feel is very important in order to know that you're healthy. You have to feel your own body, you have to feel yourself, you have to feel the joy, you have to feel the beautiness around you in order to feel the characters. There is no way you can become your character if first you don't become yourself, or if you're not truly yourself and you're not genuine. And that's why, for example, we talk about the method, which is for me the best way to come up with creative and fresh ideas for animation, which is basically be yourself. And be yourself through applying it into the animation, and feel what your character is feeling it with your own emotions and with your own body. And that's the best way to really, in my opinion, to create fresh and genuine and new ideas, because you are unique. I'm unique. Everybody's unique independently. So if you get in touch with your own genuine aspect of yourself, that's how your ideas are going to be unique. Is when we fall into the cliches, is when we fall into doing what others want to do, is when we fall into, let's say, the standards, where creativity or uniqueness or fresh or all that get lost and we don't find it. So I'm basically doing animating the way I want to animate, with applying everything that I learned under the ways that I think I enjoy the most. Like, I really doing this shot, I had a great time, and my focus was to have a very good time. Of course, I was doing it at the same time I was creating the course of the essence. But if you see the essence, you will see that the main point of everything is to enjoy it and to have fun and to get loose with your own creativity, and to trust and to go for it and explore, right? Ideas comes and goes, not get attached to the outcome, how people is going to like it, how is the studio that I want to apply to are going to like it or not. No, just have fun, enjoy the process. So that's what I'm doing now as animator, and that's what I'm doing now, let's say, as creator of Anime Warriors. I'm just simply an artist that I've been lucky enough to learn about creativity in a very personal way. I know how my creativity works, and I know how I have to use creativity not just in animation, but in my life. Doing this with this camera, with my laptop, with my travels, with the people that I know. It's so beautiful to really understand creativity as a way of life making, that the moment you get in tune with that and you see the benefits, and you're brave enough to do the things the way you want to do it, you're going to see how your career is going to be super successful, whatever your career is. How you're going to see, if you work in a creative job, how powerful, how people are going to like your work, because the moment you let your creativity flow and to be as you want your creativity to be, you're going to see that people really react to that in a very positive way, because you're being yourself, you're doing whatever you want in the best way you can. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope that this more or less creates some insights. Create your own path. The point of this is that don't follow. Some people sometimes write me and says, hey, how can I animate like you? It's like, well, the best way to animate like me is to forget about me and don't care about how do I animate, how I do my things, because I don't really care about how others likes my work. What I do care is about myself, and I do care is about my own creativity, and try to enjoy life in the most loving way, in the most in the most honest way and genuine way. So be genuine, be yourself, create from the most genuine aspect from yourself, and yeah, I guess see you in the courses. I hope that through Anima Warriors you can reach that, and through other teachers, because I can see there's a lot of people who is pushing that direction to be yourself, animate and create from your heart. That's really important. So thank you very much for watching, and I don't know, I guess I see you in the net.